Alright, now that we've completed the fan lights, the chin lights, and the main control board, it's time to move on to making the wiring harness. So what you'll need for this is your wire, you need your crimp pins, you'll need your wire cutters, your wire strippers, some scissors, and your D-sub crimping tool. So start by taking your wire and ripping off one strand. You'll need to cut around 30, somewhere around like 2.5 inch sections. So you'll need 30 of these, about this long. Alright, now that you have all these cut down to around 2.5, 3 inch sections, it's time to strip both ends of these wires. So strip all of these. Oh, something I forgot to mention, strip around, somewhere around 1/4 inch of the insulation off the wires. Alright, now that you've stripped around 30 of these individual 3 inch sections, set these aside, and you'll need to break off these individual crimp pins. They usually come like this, so you'll have to break off into each individual pin. So you'll need probably 50 or so for now. Now that you have a bunch of crimp pins broken off of this thing, take 4 of these wires and take your crimp pin, insert it into your crimp tool like this. So with the little sharp bits towards the tool, and press down slightly like this. So with the crimp pin like this, take your wire and insert it into the little hole, like so. And then just press down, and you have attached the crimp pin to the wire, like so. So do that for the other 4 wires. Again, I'll show how to do this again. So take your crimp pin, take your crimp tool with the sharp bits facing into the little holes, insert it in like this, press slightly to hold it in place, and then take your wire and push it in. Push in all of the exposed end plus a little bit of the insulated end. So like that. I'll also upload a photo or series of photos to show how to do this. So yeah. Alright, now that you have these 4 crimp pins attached to these 4 wires, take one wire with the bare end. All these have bare ends, by the way. You're only supposed to crimp one side of each wire. So take this wire and take another wire, twist them together like so. So we have the wire we just crimped and a plain wire, a plain stripped wire. So now we crimp these two together. Now we have two crimp pins attached to two wires. So we get another wire and crimp it to the two that we have here. Okay, now we have 3 wires, 3 crimp pins. Add another wire. Now we have 4 crimp pins, 4 wires. Add another wire. Five crimp pins. Add another wire. That is 6 crimp pins, and add one more wire. Okay, so this wiring section is done. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 crimp pins, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wires. So set this aside and leave this one uncrimped, and do this for the other 3 wires that we have left. So you need to make 4 of these for these 7 wire, 7 crimp pin sections. Alright, now that we have 4 of these 7 segment pieces, take your wire again and rip off a strand of 2. You don't need it that long, maybe like 3 feet tops. So take about 12 inches of wire, cut it off. So make 2 12-inch sections, and then split these wires in half. Now strip the ends of these wires. Now that we have both sides of each wire stripped, take one wire, take one section, and crimp them together. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 crimp connectors, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shorter wires, and 1 longer wire. And add a crimp connector to the end of the longer wire. So now we have 8 crimp connectors and 8 wires, and one of the wires being longer than the rest. So do this to the other 3 shorter sections of wire. Now take your one segment of wire that has 8 crimp connectors and a 9th one on the end here, and take your 3-pin crimp housings, you'll see a little arrow right there. So the arrow is on the left and the little holes are facing up. So take one segment of wire and take the shorter bits. Don't touch the long bit. Take the shorter wires, stick one of them in the rightmost section. Grab another crimp housing and stick the next wire also in the rightmost section. And continue this until you get to the end, but don't put the 3-pin crimp housing on the longest wire. Now that all the wires are inserted into the rightmost spot, take another segment of wire and insert it into the middle spot. Take another segment of the crimped wire and insert it right into the middle spot there. And do the same thing with the next branch. And the next one. And the one after that. So now what we have is a segment of wire with 8 of these black housings, and the ends of which are not inside a crimp housing. So this is going to be one section of the wiring harness. So we used up 2 of these segments. So do the same thing, follow the same pattern for the next 2. Again, take one, and insert it into the rightmost spot. And do that for all of these except the very longest wire. Take your last segment of wire and put it in the middle of the crimp housings. So this is the shorter section here. Okay, now that we have two 8 crimp housing connectors, 2 sets of wires that have 8 crimp housing connectors. Take the unhoused ends, this is the longer one, these are the longer ends, and take your individual crimp housings, this is the 1 pin, and insert them in. Okay, now we have most of the wiring harness completed. All that's left to do is make the signal wires, which is a little more difficult. So take these, set these aside, and we'll start on making the wires for the signal, because these act as the power. This is going to be the positive, and the center is going to be ground, but we also need a signal. So take these and set these aside. I'll upload a photo of what exactly these should look like when they're completed.